Hello friends, good morning and welcome to the EduSat Network. Our today's topic of discussion is Ajanta in the historical context. And for this discussion, we have thus in our studio our subject expert, Dr. Y.S. Aloni, Professor, School of Arts and Aesthetics, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has a teaching experience of nearly 2 decades and his work is in the area of Buddhist caves, as we had also had his lecture yesterday, which you could also follow up and also watch on YouTube. So with this brief introduction, I would like to welcome Sir to our studio. Thank you so much, Sir, for coming. And with this, I request you to begin our today's lecture.
Thank you. And this will be a continuation from the last lecture, yesterday's lecture, what I had. Today I will be speaking on the Ajanta's historical context. I will just give you a very brief historical perspective within a span of 1 hour. And I hope you enjoy it. Before saying so, before I begin, I would like viewers to keep in mind that as and when you wish to go to Ajanta, do see the caves in its chronological order rather than in its numerical order. The numerical order of the caves have been made for the convenience of the visitors and that of the Archaeological Survey of India, but that does not give you the chronological order, chronological perspective. Having said that, I begin my lecture on Ajanta caves in its historical context, and what we know about Ajanta is from 1819 onwards, but otherwise Ajanta was absolutely in oblivion. There was no information on Ajanta. And it was all covered with forest and debris, and only it was 1819 that the officer of the Madras army first discovered that site, and then later on it came to be known in the academic world, in the administrative world, and in this world itself. So Yuan Sang in the first of the 7th century AD, it mentions about Ajanta, but though he mentioned about Ajanta, but he never visited Ajanta, because if you read his account of Ajanta, you will notice that it is written on a hearsay account rather than physically going and seeing those caves, and mostly he talks about the cave number 26, Chaitya cave. So that is what the Yuan Sang mentioned. Then we, as you know, that it is the caves have been excavated in Ajanta Satmala ranges. It is located 110 kilometers away from Aurangabad city, located at the there is a place called Fardapur, nearby place, and there is a T point, and one has to get down at T point, then take those buses and go to Ajanta caves. Now the cave site has lot of there is a closed access now. So many people find it quite irritating, but let me inform the viewers that it has been done in order to protect the monument, in order to preserve those monuments, and therefore you have to bear with it. So one has to take note that it has you have to maintain a minimum decorum or whatever rules and regulations which are prescribed by the Archaeological Survey of India for the preservation of the monuments. Now this particular cave site is largely visited by the students of fine arts, by the lay followers, by the Buddhist community, by the Indians, as well as by foreigners. So many people go and visit this particular cave site, and it becomes a very delighting experience to see the way the caves have been excavated in those hill ranges, and the way they have been decorated, the way they have been painted. It is a fabulous monument we have in India, and the only surviving example of Indian painting in the history of Indian art. It's not that paintings were not being done elsewhere. Paintings were very much being done elsewhere. It was part of the tradition. But unfortunately we do not have those evidences, but Ajanta is one place which provides us fabulous evidences of early Indian painting and also the sculptures and all. Now we come to these monuments, and as you can see, it is the general view. This is a view from a T point, and what you notice is the early phase of Ajanta in the form of cave number 9, cave number 10, cave number 12, cave number 13, and so this becomes the locus area of early activity at Ajanta. And when you see those things, all those walls which you are seeing right now, these are all newly constructed ones. These are all the newly constructed walls, and they have been made in order to preserve these monuments. Now let me also tell you that the access to caves was from the riverbed. It is from riverbed side. There were steps to each, almost to each caves, and then that is how the access was made earlier. And this is you can see the traces of those things in later caves, and one can presume that the access was from riverbed, and then the people would cross the riverbed and then climb up the stairs and go to those caves. So this is how things were done during that time, during ancient time. This is another view. You can see how the cave number 9 and cave number 10, which forms the early group of caves, and how they have been made, they have been decorated. The cave number 10 has open facade, whereas the cave number 10 has stone screen facade. There is a big difference. So there is this difference of almost a century. So generally cave number 10 is dated to 2nd century BC, whereas cave number 9 is dated to 4th century BC, and the shrinelets which are here in between these two caves, these are the shrinelets, and these shrinelets have been excavated after the excavation of these two caves. Moreover, what you see, the Buddha images on this particular facade of this particular caves, say for example, these are the kind of Buddha images which have been made on the side walls of cave number 10. Now these Buddha images have been added later times, sometime in 3rd, 4th century AD, or some images were added even in 5th century AD. So there is this continuous addition which goes on in these particular caves. Then you have this interior, and this interior was plastered and painted. And what you notice over here on the above are these are the marks here. These are the marks over here, and these marks are meant to fix the wooden ribs on the ceilings. So what I showed you yesterday, say for example Karla, Bhaja, they still have those wooden ribs, and these kind of wooden ribs were fitted in these caves, and they were part of the interior decoration, though they had no any functional value as such. So one has to take it as a part of decoration, one has to understand it as a part of decoration. This is a vault-roof apsidal Chaityagraha, and then there are series of paintings made. There are number of paintings made. Mainly these pillars have beautiful Buddha images, and these Buddha images mostly consist of Dipankar Buddha images or the other Buddha images. Now these are the paintings over the ceilings, and as I told you that earlier inscriptions we could come to know because of the because the plaster came out, and that is how we come to know that there were inscriptions earlier, and these inscriptions were plastered and painted. So obviously this gives you the evidence that it was painted later, it was plastered later. Now these are some of the interesting images we have in these caves, and then you can see the images of Dipankar Buddha Now we come to cave number 9, and cave number 9, as you know, it's beautiful facade. It is decorated with Chaitya arch, and one can see how the entrance has been made. It is in the center, and then on its two sides you have those the small windows. If you see very carefully, you do see those windows, and then here you can see the entrance in the middle, and there are the series of Chaitya arches carved over those entrances. Then you have this the corner of the facade you can see, and there are number of those Buddha images, and these Buddha images are intrusive one. They are all added in later times, and that's why the whole issue of chronology becomes extremely complex in Ajanta, and there are not many inscriptions available in Ajanta. So one has to rely more on the formalistic analysis of the sculpture and try to arrive at possible date brackets, because the formal analysis will not give you a fixed date. It can only offer you tentative date bracket, but it will never give you fixed date. The inscriptions, on the other hand, it provides you fixed dates, or very you can, if there is a dated inscription, then the dated inscription helps you to date those monuments more precisely, rather than making any kind of a tentative assessment or any kind of tentative assumption. So these are very important markers which one has to keep in mind when it comes to the dating of the monument, when it comes to the dating of the cave as well. Now we also see this particular ceiling, and one can notice how the facade has been carved well inside the hillock in order to protect from the rain, in order to protect from the sun. So you have all kinds of mechanism were in place during that time, and everything was taken care of, and these are some of the intrusive images which I have already talked about. Now this is the interior of the cave. The interior of the cave, if you notice this horizontal band which travels all along the hall, which is carved all along the hall above the pillars, which you also get the similar arrangement in cave number 10 of Ajanta as well as in Aurangabad, the early Chaitya cave. Now in this particular case, you can see the traces of paintings here. You can see the plaster, and then there were paintings made on it. Then these are the painted Buddha images, what you have already seen the way it has been done in cave number 10. Similarly, the same kind of things were done also in cave number 9, and then this is a very good example. Now you do notice some interesting characteristics over here. You do see the image of Buddha, and in the center then it is flanked by another images of Buddha, but basically they are all the Bodhisattvas, and in the center it is always the Shakyamuni Buddha. Now this this photo, this image is a fresh one, fresh in the sense that when the chemical conservation was made and the fungus was removed, that time this image was taken. And the Archaeological Survey of India has to constantly keep cleaning this fungus every year in every cave almost, wherever paintings exist. And it's a gigantic task, it's a massive task. Sometimes when we go and visit at Ajanta, we do find this covering of fungus, and suddenly people get panic and start saying that, oh, our government, our departments are not maintaining it, and it is being neglected and stuff like that. But let me tell you, it is not so. It is because of this fungus problem which keeps occurring all the time. So the Archaeological Survey of India has to take up cleaning process, chemical cleaning process and the chemical conservation process every year, every time. So they are totally engaged, the entire team is engaged throughout the year in every cave one by one. Now, now we come to a very interesting phase of Ajanta, which is quite different. Now this particular cave, cave number 11, is considered as one of the earliest Mahayana excavation. But there is this cave called cave number 8, which has some certain peculiarities, and these peculiarities need to be understood in a very different way. Currently, this particular cave number 8 is being used as a power generating house for the entire cave site. But what you notice in cave number 8 of Ajanta is the platform at the back of the shrine sail. So it is presumed that the Buddha images were sculpted and kept there, and this particular phase in Western Deccan is observed at the other cave site like Kondivite, which is popularly known as Mahakali caves in Mumbai, and Kanheri caves. So one has to take note of those things, and this phase can be dated to sometime in mid 3rd century AD on the basis of inscriptional evidences. So we do have inscriptional evidences, say for example, which are not directly related with the caves, but which are indirectly related, and they can be used as a marker in order to understand the development of cave excavations at Ajanta. Say for example, we have an inscriptional evidence which which mention about the Mauryan king, one of the Mauryan, the Konkan Mauryan king, and that inscription comes from Vada. Vada is a place near Thane, in Thane, and that inscription is a very interesting inscription because it is a dated inscription and it mentions Shake 322. So on that count, so 400 AD becomes a date of that particular inscription. So by 400 AD the Konkan Mauryas were ruling in the Konkan, so therefore the Traikutakas who were ruling before the Konkan Mauryas have to be placed before 400 AD, and once you do that, the entire chronology of the Western Deccan changes, and one has to take this as a very cardinal evidence in order to locate the early phase of the Mahayana excavation. Generally, it is presumed that, oh, there was a lull of activity, there is a gap, and then suddenly there is an emergence of the Mahayana cave excavation. But to my mind, it is a very wrong way of looking at the evidences we have within Western India. Whether it is at Ajanta, whether it is at Kanheri, whether it is at Mahakali caves or Kondivite caves, whether it is at Mahar, whether it is at Kuda, and whole lot of caves in Konkan region. Now we come back to, then we move on to the next phase called cave number 11 at Ajanta, and then on your screen what you see now is cave number 11, and adjacent to it you do see the cave number 10, which is, now this cave number 11 is closely placed to cave number 10, which is an earlier excavation. And if you see, if we go back to the earlier visual, you notice the way facade has been decorated, the design of cave number 11. Now we do have similar kind of designs getting followed in the Konkan area, and this is at the corner, this is a facade of cave number 6 at Panharekaji, which is near Ratnagiri, now it is located in Sindhudurga district, and you can very well observe how these facade designs have been adapted from these kind of small places. And then at Ajanta things become very different. This is the entrance of the cave, and then there are Dwara Shakhas, there are number of Dwara Shakhas. So they are called as 3 Dwara Shakhas, 4 Dwara Shakhas, or whatever. So it depends on the number. So these are the recessed door frames, and these recessed door frames offer you to make the doors more elaborate. Then another thing I would like to inform you is that At times there is a sculptural decoration, and then at times there is no sculptural decorations, rather it is simply plastered and painted. Now, any sculptural decoration will take longer time than the painting one. Then these are the veranda, you have those Buddha images, and these Buddha images are added later, they were not part of the original design. Then there are those paintings on the walls of this of the veranda hall, and very interesting that the windows which you see has a very different design of the pillars, and these pillars then become they are also used as a for the facade design of the caves, and one can notice the image of Dipankar Buddha. And at this end, you know, if you see the entrance very closely, this particular area, when you go and actually see these caves, it will be wonderful exercise for you to go and actually physically examine those kind of art pieces there, those kind of art paintings there. Now this is basically a image of Bodhisattva, and in all probability it is likely to be the Padmapani Bodhisattva, whereas on the other end it is the Vajrapani Bodhisattva. That becomes a very standard kind of a iconography in this cave. Now these are the ceiling, how the ceiling of cave number 11 is painted, and you can see those beautiful floral decoration over the ceiling. It was plastered and then painted. As far as colors are concerned, all the colors were natural colors. So you have different kind of sources, like you have the vegetable colors, you have the colors from the minerals, then you have the blue color tone which is very rich in Ajanta. It is made out of lapis lazuli, which was brought from other area, and because it was not locally available. Then you can see the image of the Dipankar Buddha. Then this is the ceiling we get to see, and then here we have the interior of the cave. Now in this interior of the cave, this is a very peculiar interior of the cave. You do not find this kind of an interior in other caves at Ajanta. There is a hall, and then there are pillars inside. Now often it is said that this becomes a kind of a unique excavation, but to my mind there is an antecedent. There are always past excavations on the which one can look at, and one of the best example would be the Kondivite caves at in Mumbai. And the Kondivite cave number, especially cave number 5, has similar kind of an interior, and it has no Buddha image, but it has a simple pedestal like what we find in cave number 8 and other caves at Kanheri. So there is a distinct phase of sculpting of loose Buddha image. Now here in this case you have the image of Buddha, and this image of Buddha is quite different than the images which have been carved in the shrines of Ajanta caves. Now especially there are two types which get developed. One is a type which you are finding on your screen in cave number 11, whereas the another one is that of cave number 15. Now you need to understand how these Buddha images have emerged over a period of time and in the Western Deccan itself. For that you will have to go back to Kanheri and see how those images are made, have been sculpted, and how there is a lineage which gets followed at Ajanta, and then Ajanta then starts developing on its own a very distinct ways of making Buddha images. Now this is cave number 11 Buddha image, and one can see the shoulders are broad, the torso is slender, and has a very different kind of facial expression, and then at the base you have the image of a devotee cling to the simhasana, which is generally the throne, the lion throne of the or the pedestal of the Buddha image, and the depiction of the Dhammachakra in the center, and then the lion. So it signifies the Dhammachakra Pravartan which he did in Sarnath. Now we come to next phase of development at Ajanta, which is found in cave number 15. Now cave number 15 is a very interesting cave, and it is being used by the chemical branch of Archaeological Survey of India for their own office purpose, for their own work, and they do also require to do lot of things, so they also need some space, and this cave is used for that purpose. Though the cave was plastered and painted, but very little plaster exists now, and there is no traces of painting or evidences of painting survived here. And one of the important marker of this cave is that of this door, the T-shaped kind of a door. So it is just a little protrusion on its two sides, which makes T shape, and also these architraves, which are very interesting one, and they have here the series of Chaitya arches. Now here in the center you do see the image of a snake, and that signifies the Muchalinda episode in the life of Buddha during the time of his enlightenment. Now this is the shrine image, and one can see how the shrine image is very different, quite different than what you have seen in cave number 11. This is very slender variety, very refined variety. The neck is little, the protrusion of a head is very visible, very clear, and the neck becomes conical. And another important marker of this particular image is that of smoothing of the surface all over the whole sculptural volume. The heaviness, there is no heaviness in this particular image as such, but nevertheless it has that element of pushing forwardness, which is a typical marker of the sculptors at Ajanta. This is the plan of the cave, and one can notice how it is very close to the earlier tradition of the cave excavations, mainly the Theravadin caves. So here you have the shrine at the back, and then there is a shrine antechamber. This is a shrine antechamber here, and then there are those cells all around, and it's a hall, and here is a veranda. This is a entrance, and then these are the door, these are the windows, and this entrance has collapsed now, but there was a veranda. Now this veranda was not at all this veranda is not at all visible. We move on to the next cave excavation, that is cave number 6, which is of a two-storied excavation, and one can see the plan of this cave. Now the cave number 6 becomes the most upper level, becomes the most complex excavation in the history of Ajanta, whereas cave number 6 lower level is very little refined and has been done very continuously, whereas there are interruption of activities in cave number 6 at upper level. Now this is the cave number 6, which is a two-storied excavation at Ajanta, and upper level was excavated earlier than the lower story, but definitely the upper story remain incomplete, whereas the lower story gets completed. And one can notice the here, if you see very closely this particular site, you do find the Chaitya arches, remains of the Chaitya arches, and these remains of the Chaitya arches clearly indicates that there was a series of Chaitya arches carved as part of the facade design, which was followed from what was developed at places like Kanheri, Kondivite. So there are those antecedents, which these antecedents need to be studied very clearly. Now, the plan clearly shows that the upper story was excavated and the lower story was excavated later. However, there are those problems in this cave. Now, I will come one by one to these things, but let us go to upper story of Ajanta, where you do see these two beautiful images. One is the image of a flag bearer and another is the image of a Naga, personified image, and so you have this Naga image which is quite different. Now, if you observe these sculptures, the delineation of these sculptures very close, very meticulously, it offers you to think differently, in the sense that they do not generally follow the conventions which were developed at Ajanta in the late 5th century AD. And these things become extremely important. So, how the sculptural conventions were developed over a period of time. Now, this is the veranda of the cave, and there are a number of images carved, very interesting one, though it is not complete, but there are those, it appears as if there was a stupa and the relief stupas, and these relief stupas were replaced by the Buddha images. And in all probability, the sculptors wanted to depict the Manushi Buddha images. Now, the Manushi Buddha image concept is very much exists in the Pali tradition. So, you have the Buddha Vamsha, which talks about those Adi Buddhas, the 24, no, not 22, 24 Buddhas, and also the Digha Nikaya, which only talks about last 7, that is including the Shakyamuni Buddha. So, there is this different textual tradition, and we do get the pictorial tradition as well. Now, you can see how these images were left incomplete at certain places, but nevertheless the process of excavation was a simultaneous one. So, you go on doing number of things over here, and one can see the pillars and the pilasters, the way they have been decorated very beautifully, and these are the pillars. Now, these pillars, most of these pillars are reconstructed one. Originally they were not existing, in the sense that when the Archaeological Survey of India took over the site, some of those pillars were broken, and then the Archaeological Survey of India rebuilt them, and there are some of the rebuilt things. Now, this is the another end of the veranda, where you have the similar kind of Buddha images carved, and even the pillar designs are very different. Now, there are a number of those typological variations as far as pillar designs are concerned. So, these pillar designs may not give you any kind of a chronological indicator. At times, like the motifs, as far as decorative motifs are concerned, they keep appearing and disappearing. So, therefore, one has to be very conscious while applying these kind of methodologies for the study of art monuments in India. Now, these are the interesting Buddha images which have been carved at the outer ends of the front end of the upper level of cave number 6. Now, when it began, how it began, and what was the purpose? Now, these are some of the interesting questions which are yet to be answered very satisfactorily, but nevertheless they have been carved. So, in all probability, what you notice these kind of images is is how these images are different and become part of the early the so-called Mahayana tradition at Ajanta, and this is a very good example of the image of Avalokiteshvara, the who is a bodhisattva, and the lower end, if you observe very carefully, it is a reconstructed one, and this restoration process, this reconstruction process has been done by the method of ethyl silicate, and it's a very long process, it's a very cumbersome process as well. So one has to keep those things in mind while employing these kind of technologies, that the time taken and but nevertheless these kind of conservation methods are extremely important and helpful in recovering or repairing certain part of the broken sculptures, and I must say that we should really appreciate our archaeologists to do this kind of a job, and we must appreciate the efforts which are being made by the Archaeological Survey of India and the people who are actually involved in the conservation. They too do their work with lot of love, with lot of care, and I hope when we go to the monument, we also express and behave with the same care and same love. Now we move on to the interior of the cave, and this interior of the cave is quite complex one. There are certain parts which have been completed, and there are certain parts which have not been completed. So there is a stopping of excavation in this particular cave site, and then there is also restarting of these things. Now this is a most interesting part which I am going to show you today, is that this is the main shrine chamber of the cave of the upper story, but there are other shrines as well in this particular cave. Say for example this one and this one, these are the two shrinelets which are added, which baffle everyone. And then this particular shrinelet is a very important one in order to mark out the kind of a development, the excavation that took place, which went on in this particular cave, and therefore for many this particular cave is the most complex one. It's only Walter Spink who has extensively written on this particular cave, but with his pet idea of hiatus and conflict between the Rishikas and Ashmakas and so on and so forth, which is not very convincing at all, and which has its own problem, and so one has to think with lot of fresh mind. But at this juncture, I would like to take you to this particular shrine chamber, and let me also inform you that this is the area which has not been completed. Then there are those pillars, there are these bases of the pillars which have not been completed, and it has been left incomplete. Now this particular shrine chamber has a wonderful door frame, and one can notice these beautiful paintings. Now these beautiful paintings, if you want to see, you must have a torchlight with you to see these paintings, because there is not enough light, and fortunately it has been preserved so beautifully, and you can see the originality and the freshness in those paintings. Now one has to really compare the physiognomic depiction or the stylistic conventions with that of the paintings that exist in cave number 1, cave number 2, cave number 16 and cave number 17. Now this comparison becomes absolutely necessary in order to mark out the chronological development at Ajanta, and therefore this cave number 11, cave number 15 can easily be dated to, say, especially cave number 15 can be dated to early 5th century AD, whereas cave number 11 can easily be dated to sometime late 4th century AD. So there are these different phases of development at Ajanta. Generally, it is always said that all these caves, they suddenly came up in the late 5th century AD. But that seems little impossible, because one has to see how the location of the cave has been chosen, why the location differs of the other caves, and then how the activity, the concentration of activities has been made as per the location of those caves. So if you see the late 5th century markers, you will notice that they have been excavated little away from this particular early group, and especially the cave number 16 to cave number 20, then you have cave number 21 to cave number 26, and then here you have cave number 1 to cave number 4. So these are important markers of the location for the development of caves, but these paintings are really well preserved paintings and do not follow the conventions of late 5th century AD at Ajanta itself. These are the floral decorations, and you can see the kind of a freshness, the color freshness, the line, and the way it has been made. Now this is the shrine image. The shrine image is a very interesting one, and it does not come under the conventions of late 5th century AD Buddha images which we find at Ajanta elsewhere. So these things then will have to be dated earlier than the late 5th century AD, and then afterwards you do find lot of problems in this particular cave, and the work stops somewhere, and then again it resumes. So the resumption has its own history. We have this the beautiful examples of the sculpture as well as painting. So the craft of painting and sculpture is a simultaneous process. It's not something which is detached from each other. So even the sculptures were plastered and painted. At times only paintings were done instead of sculpting. So you have all kinds of things. Then this is the main shrine image, and this particular shrine image very much follows the conventions of late 5th century AD images. Whereas if you see this particular image, it does not follow those late 5th century AD conventions. Whereas this one, the whole idea of the image of Buddha having pushing forward energy, the massiveness, the robustness, and the element of monumentality which exists in Ajanta images, which very much follows these kind of qualities. Now we come to the shrine antechamber of this particular cave, and the shrine antechamber has lot of Buddha images as well as there are beautiful paintings, and one can have a close look at them. Whereas this is the scooped out area in the hall, and then there are those intrusive painting, now intrusive sculptures, and these intrusive sculptures in the hall, inside the hall of the cave, will give you a very different idea, like how different sculptors were working simultaneously in this particular cave shrine. Now this is the lower story of the cave. This lower story is complete. Now it is fully excavated, and the load bearer images of the door frame of cave number 6, it shows its early date, because its pictorial conventions are very different than what you have seen or what you are going to see in a later phase. Now there are these interesting survived examples of the paintings in this particular cave. This is the Mara Vijay at the time of enlightenment. Then you have another survived paintings over here, and then this is the shrine, and now you can see how this shrine image is close to the shrine image of cave number 11, and this becomes very important marker for the development at Ajanta. And the pillars inside here are very interesting addition, very interesting one, knowing well that there is a cave at the upper level. And then the shrine door of this particular cave has been carved with elaborate sculptural embellishment, sculptural decoration. Now, I am not going to go into the formal analysis of each and every image, but what I want you to see is the way this particular image has been sculpted and the way the conventions get followed, and what you see on your screen is the hall inside, how those it's a pillared hall. And then comes a very important phase of that is cave number 7, which is very close to cave number 6, and again it is at a lower level as far as the height from the river bed is concerned. Now this is the plan of the cave of Canary 7, the Ajanta cave 7, and which is quite similar to what we notice Canary cave number 25. So Canary cave number 25 has similar kind of plan with that of Ajanta, but Ajanta has more elaboration here. So one can really study these aspects very carefully. And then in the shrine antechamber you have this multiplied Buddha images, which is to do with the miracle at Shravasti. Interestingly, in Chinese tradition there is a multiple Buddha image tradition, and this multiple Buddha image tradition, they call it 108 Buddhas, and each Buddha represents the different qualities, different psychological characteristics, the moral good conduct and power and everything. So this is the shrine image, and this shrine image again, if you notice what you have seen of cave number 6 at upper level, the shrine, whereas what you are seeing cave number 7 at lower the shrine image are quite different stylistically. And then there are series of those Buddha images, standing Buddha images all along this main shrine image. Now one really wonders what these are. They are definitely not Shakyamuni Buddhas, but they are likely to be the Arhats who have been accorded the status of who have been accorded a very high status in the Buddhist visual imagery. And we get very good idea in the Tibetan tradition where the 16 Arhats get represented all around the Buddha. These are the 16 disciples of Buddha who achieved arhathood during their lifetime. Then the subsequent caves can be assigned to second half of 5th century AD. And then what is the criteria then in order to mark out this late 5th century AD development? Now the most important criteria would be to see the influence of Vidarbha sculptures. Now the way Vidarbha sculptures have been sculpted, that chubbiness, that delicate body and a very refined kind of a torso. So one can see some of these qualities getting entered in Ajanta, and then you can easily arrive at a phase where the late 5th century AD conventions get amalgamated with the Vidarbha sculptures, and then the different kind of imagery emerges at Ajanta. Now this is just one comparison I am showing you. So the sculpture found at Mansar near Nagpur, and its contours show close connection with the figure of Ajanta caves in sculpture as well as in painting. So there is this closeness between these two traditions, and this becomes a very important body of evidence to study at Ajanta, to study the images of Ajanta. Therefore, as I told you earlier, that you have to see the caves in their chronological order, and without chronological order you cannot really appreciate the cave. So therefore, as and when you enter in Ajanta, do begin with cave number 10, cave number 9, cave number 12 and the cave number 13. So see this group, then move on to cave number 8, which is closed one, So doesn't matter. Then move on to cave number 11 and then see that cave. Then from there on, then there you go to cave number 15, and from there you go to cave number 6. So see both at upper level as well as lower level. Then come to cave number 7, and then from here onwards you go directly to cave number 16, then to 17, 18, 19, 20. See this particular group, and then go to cave number 26 and see from 26 to 24. So that is how the chronological sequence goes on in Ajanta. Now this is cave number 16, which formulates the next phase of excavation at Ajanta, and therefore the history of Ajanta needs to be understood in the light of the evidences which have been presented here, and they need to be seen very differently. So this cave number 16 then begins a different phase altogether in the history of Ajanta, and then this story will be told to you some other time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this very interesting presentation. Of course, today also we got to see a number of caves and sculptures from Ajanta. So, sir, with the respect to that, I would like to ask you, say, a query that our students would also have, that if you want to study these sculptures or paintings more in depth, perhaps if one is not able to go to the site of these caves, so could you suggest any books, any source they could
Ajanta has been extensively written. You do get books by Archaeological Survey of India like Ajanta Murals by A. Ghosh, then you have Yazdhani. It is text templates Ajanta which were written long ago, and then recently there is a wonderful work by Shingloff and Monica Zink, who have identified themes of painting, and they have also made corrections in earlier readings. Then as far as the early phase of Ajanta is concerned, we have very good work of Nagaraju Deji, and my own book is also coming, which will discuss about the entire chronology of Ajanta and the problems which we encounter in art historical investigations. Of course, lot of visuals are available for the students on the internet. You can go to American website, then you can also see lot of number of such sites which carry images of Ajanta. But unless until you have some kind of a chronological idea, some kind of a markers, how to see those markers of development.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So for that you cannot see the case from cave number 1 to cave number 26. For that you need to break that. So you go to early caves, then move on chronologically, spend more time. One day is not at all enough for to see Ajanta. At least you should have 2 or 3 days, ideally speaking. Then you really enjoy the richness, the glory of Ajanta caves and paintings.
Right, absolutely, sir, and very rightly said. So, friends, with this we come to the close of our lecture, but first of all, let us thank sir for these wonderfully created presentations by him.
It's really my pleasure.
Sir, we are also very privileged, and also, friends, we will be having more lectures by sir in the coming month, in the month of January. So, please stay tuned for that, and so thank you for watching and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.